Donald Trump is facing impeachment again. I think it's like the 7th or 8th time someone's tried to file impeachment against him. 2 of them actually went through. He got impeached twice in his first term. But now we have Shri Thanedar, who is saying that Donald Trump is violating the Constitution over his deportation without due process, among other issues. So I will say, it's a PR grab. It's a nonsense move. He knows it won't go anywhere, but we're going to cover it anyway because it's what Democrats want to happen. And the core of the story is, once again, Kilmar Abrego Garcia. A story that won't go away despite the fact that all the facts have been laid out and they don't want to let it go. Democrats want to make sure that this is the hill they fight for and die on. But that's the way they're going to play it. We've got another story from Fox News. The New York Times, one of their columnists argued that the judge in Wisconsin who broke the law, what she had done may have been illegal, but it was heroic. And so that's my response from now on. Literally, anytime they're like, Trump is doing something illegal, I'll be like, but it is heroic. Because that's the argument they're making, so fine. And then we got, the White House put a bunch of pictures on the lawn of all of the Maryland men who have been deported. Maryland men, of course, being code word for criminal, illegal alien rapists and murderers. And, you get the point. But we got another story where they're saying a Detroit woman has been deported by Trump. Guess where she's from? Guatemala. So we'll get into all that. Before we do, we got a great sponsor, my friends. It's American Financing. With everything that's happening in the economy, it feels like we're walking on shaky ground. Prices are stuck at really high levels. Seems like nothing is affordable anymore. It's no wonder many are relying on credit cards to cover the gaps. Credit card debt is skyrocketing, and it's leaving a lot of people stressed out. But if you're a homeowner, you don't have to face this uncertainty alone. My friends at American Financing can help you take control. They can help you access the equity in your home to help you pay down that high-interest credit card debt, giving you peace of mind and real savings. On average, people just like you are saving $800 a month. Plus, they may even close your loan in as little as 10 days. Don't let the chaos of the economy get the best of you. Call American Financing now. It costs you nothing to get started, and you may delay 2 mortgage payments. Giving you a cushion in this uncertain time. You can call 866-890-7811. That's 866-890-7811, or visit americanfinancing.net/Tim. Also, buy some Cash Brew coffee. We got all the good flavors. We've got 2 weeks till Christmas. That's a gingerbread flavor. Alex Stein's Primetime Grind, 2 times caffeine, ladies and gentlemen, is just about to run out of stock. There's only about 100 left, and we are not going to bring it back. That's right. Alex Stein Primetime Grind is being discontinued. So if you want to get a bag of this crazy man's coffee while you can, I believe we have 186. I could be wrong. So we have 186, I think, is the number they're telling me. But fear not, because we do intend to have another Alex Stein blend replacing this one. But if you want to get the crazy man's coffee, now's your chance to get it. Don't forget to also smash that like button. Share the show with everyone you know. Joining us tonight to talk about this and so much more is Courtney Nill.
Thanks so much for having me on. So my name is Courtney Nill. I'm a candidate for local office. I'm running for Charlestown City Council in Jefferson County, West Virginia. I also do political and health commentary over on X that was thankfully purchased by Mr. Elon Musk.
Indeed. And it's really fascinating because I've complained for a while now about how Charlestown, West Virginia it's a red state. It's the second reddest state, but the city council is all Democrat.
It is.
And the question has been why, and it's because conservatives don't go out and vote. So we're trying to change that, but it's great to have you. So it should be fun, and we'll hear all about this. Additionally, Facebook shut down your campaign, shut down your personal profile and your campaign, which is insane.
They did. I just found out today that my appeal has been denied. That I am impersonating myself. Apparently, I've broken community guidelines, and I cannot be on Facebook.
This is crazy. Yeah. Yup. We'll talk about that. So thanks for hanging out. Should be fun. Elaad's hanging out.
Good evening, everybody. I am Elaad Eliyahu, the White House correspondent here at Timcast. Excited to get into it tonight. Phil, how's it going?
Hello, everybody. My name is Phil Labonte. I'm the lead singer of the heavy metal band All That Remains. I'm an anti-communist and counter-revolutionary. Let's get into it.
Here's the story from the Post-Millennial. Breaking. Dem Rep files 7 articles of impeachment against President Trump. And we have the video here posted on Post-Millennial from Benny Johnson, who posted it from Eric Doherty. Where did he get it from? We'll just play the clip. Actually, we'll play the clip for you. I think it's important that you hear from Shri himself.
This is Congressman Shri Thanedar. Donald Trump has already done real damage to our democracy, but defying a unanimous 9-0 Supreme Court ruling, that has to be the final straw. It's time we impeach Donald J. Trump. The court said the wrongfully deported Abrego Garcia must be allowed to return and receive due process. Trump ignored it. He ignored the Constitution. He ignored the very checks and balances that keep our democracy intact. This isn't an isolated incident. It's part of a dangerous, deliberate pattern. That's why today I introduced a resolution to impeach Donald J. Trump, outlining 7 articles of impeachment.
They zoomed in as he was saying this. I think he told them to do that.
Yo, that is definitely...
Article 1, obstruction of justice and abuse of executive power. From denying due process to unlawful deportations, Trump defied court orders.
All right, we can go through this more quickly, though. Article 2, taking away Congress's power of the purse. Trump dismantled agencies and froze funds. Article 3, abuse of trade powers and international aggression. He imposed damaging tariffs and threatened military invasions of our allies. Article 4, violation of the First Amendment rights. He retaliated against journalists, attorneys, and critics for exercising their right to free speech. Article 5, creation of an unlawful office in Doge. Article 6, bribery and corruption. He has dismissed criminal cases and solicited payments from foreign governments and coerced legal settlement for personal and political gain. Article 7, tyrannical overreach. Finally, and most importantly, he's attempting to consolidate unchecked power and erode the constitutional limits of the presidency. In this country, we have presidents, not kings. That's not just misconduct. It's impeachable misconduct. This isn't leadership. It's tyranny. Okay, well, he's wrong about all those things, but sure, fine. I will just add something else, something that is constitutional, that was brought up by D.C. Drano at the White House press briefing. Under the Constitution, I believe it's Article 2, Section 9. The president has the authority to suspend habeas corpus during an invasion or rebellion. And the question was asked is, considering Trump has declared an invasion, will he actively suspend habeas corpus for illegal immigrants? Now, the White House response, of course, was that they don't see this as happening anytime soon. But considering such a shockingly powerful move is available to the president, and he's not gone anywhere near that, this impeachment seems like Shri just wanted to make sure people knew his name because we didn't before.
First of all, that man is, that is Tattoo from Fantasy Island, but grown up. If you know the character that I'm talking about, it is undeniable. It's no surprise that they're trying to impeach Donald Trump. But the one thing that kind of, has, or this kind of sheds light on is the Republicans refuse to do things that are going to actually have impact, and the Democrats have no such compunction. Me and Ian and myself got into it a couple weeks ago about whether or not the Democrats would try to impeach Donald Trump again, and Ian had a problem with me even articulating it, and here we are.
You know he's going to say? It's unfalsifiable. He's going to say it happened because you manifested it.
Maybe. You got
this isn't entirely predictable.
It is, but it speaks to the degradation of our political process here in the U.S. The fact that he hasn't done anything that's breaking the law. He's only doing things that Democrats dislike. He's dealing with
Democrats are violating the Constitution. Trump is not.
Yeah, 100%. And they're still trying to use whatever method they can to take whatever power the president has away. This is not going to change, and again, it brings up the phrase that we say here, which is like, "Where's the off ramp? When does this stuff stop?"
So this representative Shri Thanedar, he's exclusively
it's fine.
He's exclusively posturing here is what's going on. progressives believe that he is too much of a centrist for his district. And right now he's trying to posture himself as an anti-Trump Democrat, so he won't get primaried, or that his opponents won't get support for being primaried. So the Justice Democrats, the same group that helped get AOC elected, actually put out their first endorsement right now of former Representative Donovan McKinney, who's actually running a primary against Shri, and he just announced it earlier today. So Shri here is trying to posture as more progressive and kind of fend off these leftists kind of nipping at his coattails. So I don't think he actually expects this to go anywhere, but he wants to look as though he wants to show the base that he is so-called fighting against Trump. Whether or not that goes anywhere doesn't mean anything, because what some Democrats want to see is a so-called fight. So that's what he's scared of, his upcoming primary challenge from the Justice Democrats.
Well, and I have to think that the general public is getting tired of hearing about how Trump is getting impeached again. I mean, I think there for a little while, it's like, oh, impeachment. Okay, well, it's just another week. Apparently, Trump is the only federal official to be impeached twice. But I mean, how many attempts have they had? How many times have we heard the media talk about that? I feel like it has to be like
If I'm a Democratic upstart, though, I am trying to impeach Donald Trump, or at least vocally saying so, because I think that's what the base wants. Not that that's what the majority of Americans want, but I think the Democrats wants to see at least some posturing, some sort of fight against Trump. And then the Democrats who aren't doing that will be primaried, as we're seeing from like the Justice Democrats, and you're hearing from people like David Hogg.
So it's your sense that this is actually popular with the base. Now, I understand the political operatives and the people that are that are politically motivated. Yes, but the average Democrat, is this what they want as well? Because I assume the average Democrat does want to see actual governance.
The average Democrat, yes, but the base of the party who's most encouraged and most willing to contribute to a campaign, who would want to work on a campaign, you want to see somebody who's fighting for you, right? You want the youth vote. That's sort of the direction I think we're going to. So, yeah, if you want to be an upstart right now, I think you're definitely trying to posture like that.
There's no average Democrat. It doesn't exist. When they did that poll, I think it was there were a couple different ones that showed that Democrat approval is at like 26%, and that's not congressional approval. The congressional approval is always low; it's at like 23. They asked people who the front runner was, who was the leader of the party. Number one was AOC with 10%. So there's no average. It is just a spattering of random mixtures of left to liberal nonsense. So the reason why this guy Shri is doing this, he's not going to get an article of impeachment through a Congress that's majority Republican, even by 2 votes. He's doing it because he knows whoever wins the attention can be the leader of the party. And he's taking an opportunity to try and build up his profile, knowing that ain't no Democrat stepping up right now to be the leader of the party. You got J.B. Pritzker coming out calling for mass uprisings, protests and riots.
In New
at the same
Hampshire,
time,
too. Yeah,
at the same time, they're saying that he wants to run in 2028. They've got no leadership. Pritzker is not a leader. The best they can muster up. Look, this guy he's a C-list. He's a C-lister. Okay. No, you need the X factor to be president. You need to be a Donald Trump. Joe Biden didn't have it either, but the media won that campaign for him. Barack Obama had it. George W. Bush had it. Clinton definitely had it. This guy, the AOC, none of these people actually have it. Now, there's actually speculation that AOC wants to run for president, and that's the best they have to offer. So I don't know what to tell. The Democrats have nothing right now. I can't see how they're going to be able to manifest any kind of party cohesion in the next 10 years.
I mean, well, I don't know about the next. I don't know. I don't know if it's going to take that long. I think that you could see some kind of coalescing around a candidate if the Republicans don't deliver. Again, we talked about this a couple times. If Donald Trump, like over the weekend, I guess his numbers came out and they're kind of tanking. And if that becomes the trend broadly and he can't deliver for the American people, or we go into some kind of actual economic recession, because there's a lot of people that are saying that the consequences of the tariffs haven't actually started to really filter through the economy. If those things really sour the American people on Donald Trump, I don't see any way for conservatives or Republicans to kind of wrestle that back. And I do think that there are people that could, in the Democrat Party, that could capitalize on it.
The progressives in the Democrat Party, I think, are going to capitalize on this, and I think we're going to see a lot of the so-called centrist Democrats be knocked off by some progressives challenging the so-called moderates who have been there for a couple of decades and aren't sufficiently progressive to what the base wants.
Which is the worst result. Because if you have the progressives actually start to get real traction and get more power, that's going to have real, serious negative results for the American
Unless you
people.
think AOC is just totally unelectable on a
No,
national
not at all.
scale.
I
so
don't
to
think
kind of just help the Republican get in would be kind of the idea. Some candidates try to set up like the more extreme candidate on the other side. Like I think this is what Ossoff's trying to do in Georgia right now with Marjorie.
I don't think that's the case at all. I think that if you actually have young people that are, because they're right now, we talk about how Gen Z's really kind of like bummed out about the way our political system works. And there's a lot of energy behind, people that say things like, Luigi Mangione actually had a good idea, or he's that's the kind of Democrat we need. That's kind of the kind of left that we need. If those people become ascendant and you get more of those people running on that kind of policy, it will only be bad for America, because those people, when they don't get very quick results in government, which our government is designed to not give quick results, you're only going to end up with people saying, well, then the government, the system doesn't work, time to burn it down, and you'll see more violence.
Right. Well, as the Gen Z at the table, it's sad that this is what we're dealing with, is that we have these politicians. They don't seem to be getting anything done. They just want to insult one another. This guy, he just wants to, have his name, be known, be heard. He's not trying to get anything done. If you actually have a problem with what Trump is doing, offer a different solution, actually do something, within your legislature. Use your actual seat for a reason. Don't just complain and be like, oh, we're going to impeach Trump again.
I think that's what the Democratic Party is right now, though. The Republican Party's got debates over solutions, debates over who should be in charge. You've got I remember during the primary cycle, the fierce, DeSantis versus Trump battle. And it was brutal. The DeSantis people who were attacking the Trump and the Trump people attacking the DeSantis people. It was merciless. On the Democrat side, they don't even know what they're fighting for unless Trump is there. So if DeSantis ended up winning, what would they have had? They were arguing when DeSantis was briefly the front runner, the news article started shifting to DeSantis is actually worse than Trump. And then as soon as Trump came back, they were like, well, let's forget about that guy and go back to Trump. The only thing they have is that Democrat good, Republican bad. Let's jump to this next story, though, which proves it. From Fox News, New York Times columnist calls arrested judge's civil disobedience of protecting illegal migrants something heroic. Okay, let's just try this again. I'm going to play the clip for you, and you can hear the stupidity for yourself.
Well, obviously, they're trying to send a note of intimidation, not only to her, but to all judges and maybe to all Americans. But I don't yet know the specific details of this case, whether she escorted the guy out the jury door or whether she's let him. So that's all murky. I don't want to comment on this specific case. But especially on the issue of immigration, there are a lot of people who are appalled by what the administration is doing. And there will be times for civil disobedience. And to me, let's say she did escort this guy out the door. If federal enforcement agencies come to your courtroom and you help a guy escape, that is two things. One, it strikes me as maybe something illegal, but it also strikes me as something heroic. And in times of trouble, then people are sometimes called to do civil disobedience.
I'll take it. Ladies and gentlemen, I will take it. Trump, unleash the illegal. That's heroic. This is the stupidest. Trump has done nothing illegal. Okay? At worst, their argument is that Trump is failing to facilitate the return to the United States an illegal immigrant MS-13 gang member. It wasn't illegal. It's called error. Right? So the difference. There was an administrative error in the deportation of Abrego Garcia. However, the error was that he didn't get a USCIS interview, which could be done at any moment. But they're just not doing it. The Supreme Court ruled that they must facilitate his return. But what that means is, if he wants to return, they will provide him the means to do so, because the Supreme Court also said that no one can direct the president to engage in foreign policy, which is why the articles of impeachment from the previous segment make literally no sense. But if they're going to argue now that a judge in Wisconsin who allowed a man to escape, okay, let me tell you the story. There's a guy in Wisconsin. He's an illegal immigrant. He mercilessly beats a guy 40 times, striking him in the face and then strangling him. He had a court appearance over this. The victims were there to get justice. When the judge found out ICE had arrived to arrest this guy, she shuffled him out a private door used only for employees and jurors to help him escape. And the feds had a warrant for his arrest, and they were in a public place. For that, she has been arrested. And the New York Times, David Brooks, has the gall to say illegal, but heroic. Baby, if that's the game you want to play, I say Trump unleash the illegal because they just opened the door. To be fair, quite literally wouldn't matter if Donald Trump saved a bag of puppies, literally a burlap sack full of puppies for some reason is in a burning building. They would still claim he did something wrong. So even when Trump is abiding by the Constitution, and he is, they claim he's not. And when they violate the Constitution and break the law, they claim it's illegal but heroic. We've got mostly fiery but peaceful protests, illegal but heroic actions, and Trump is the bad guy.
I mean, they're lawless. This is what we've been saying around this table for a while. Is they will side with the criminals every time if it's if it is against Trump.
I just don't get why they're so evil. I mean this sincerely.
Tim, in these people's head, they think they are harboring Anne Frank, protecting these illegals from the Nazi Trump. I believe that's what they think in their head.
No, I disagree because they hate Jews.
No, but they still believe the Holocaust was bad. They hate our current iteration of Jews, but still would believe the Holocaust was bad. And no, I do believe in my heart of hearts that's what these people think. Like this judge who was harboring the illegal immigrant, like she thought she was being heroic. She didn't think she was a villain. She thought she was doing like that. Trump is literally a Nazi, and she's like,
but
this illegals and Frank.
This guy was charged with mercilessly beating a man by bashing him in the face 40 times and then strangling him. That's what Fox News was reporting about it. And then the victims were there, and she's like, "You get out of here."
Yeah,
I just want to give advice to everybody. If you're ever referencing a beating, you always have to add the word merciless.
Yeah.
It strikes, you know.
Really
what I mean?
gets the point across.
Like if you were going to say someone beat a child, you have to say they mercilessly beat a child.
Your movements too, also really.
Yeah, you got to just boom. Amazing. So in this regard, I've been talking about Trump using wartime, like being a wartime president. I did not make this up. Will Chamberlain was talking about this years ago. What it means is you are in a state of crisis or conflict. It does not mean active war like bombs are dropping. What it means is be a president who uses his authority to uphold the rule of law and protect your country, and don't be this wishy-washy, we don't want to do these things because Democrats will do it too. The point is they're already doing it. Democrats are outright saying right now they are doing illegal things, and they view it as heroic. That's the narrative.
I think the posturing is also very ridiculous because Democrats and progressives have been posturing as though like, oh, Trump doesn't like this judge's decisions, and that's why he arrested the judge. But that's not why. It's because the judge was breaking the law, and nobody in this country is above the law. And actually, in today's press briefing at 8:30 a.m. that Caroline Levitt held, a journalist asked,
salty.
I was a little bit salty. It was also like post their ball weekend, but somebody asked her whether more judges or judges higher up would be considered for arrest, and then she said she wouldn't answer hypotheticals. But I was just thinking to myself, anybody can be arrested if they break the law. It doesn't matter what judge you are. Donald Trump was famously arrested and he had a mugshot taken. So clearly nobody is above the law in our country. So that's why I think the posturing on trying to say, oh, he's coming after the judges who break laws need to be gone after.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, the fact that they're trying to distract from the fact of the matter is the left is trying to distract from the reality of the situation, which is that the judge broke the law. The narrative that you hear from the left is, oh, he's going after judges, as if they had not broken the law. It's totally normal to go after a judge that has broken the law.
Anybody who breaks the law.
I mean, yes, but the idea that judges are somehow above the law or sacrosanct or can't, their honor would never be impugned. They can't, You can't imagine that a judge would ever do something illegal. Well, of course they would. They're human beings. But this deification that the left is doing is all just about performing a function, which is to fool the viewer, the American people, into thinking that Donald Trump is doing something that he's not. And this is the MO of the left for the past 10 years. We go ahead.
And so nobody should be above the law, but that's not what we've seen in practice. We've seen where people pick and choose, and to me, if there is a law on the books, well, we should be following it. If you don't like the law, change the law. That's why we have a government that's supposed to be for the people, by the people, is that if there's laws that we think, should be changed, we'll just go in and change them rather than decide, oh, well, we're not enforcing that. Oh, well, we're not going to prosecute this person.
This is all about narrative building and about deceiving the American people. You mentioned the whole what they called it, nerd ball or whatever, the White House Correspondents' Dinner that they had, and
those awful.
Are you going to talk about it?
I attended no parties, by the way. I feel like it's so strange too. I was invited to a party, but I thought it was weird to be like rubbing backs with even Secretary of State Marco Rubio.
Yeah.
It just felt wrong. Like I'm supposed to be covering you, not like slapping backs, drinking beers.
Fair enough, but the point is, if you listen to a lot of the speeches that were being made, they were trying to cover for themselves all weekend. They were saying, oh, well, we missed this. We missed Biden's decline. We have to do better. They don't trust us because we didn't see this. And that is a blatant lie. They were party to the deception. They intentionally did not report these things. It wasn't about, this slipped by us.
They were the cover up, and now they're trying to cover it up again.
Absolutely.
Well, and the reason why they can get away with this narrative thing is because people have such short attention spans. They'll be scrolling along on their phone. They'll read the headline and be like, oh, well, this news agency said it, so it must be true. And then they move on and they scroll past it and they just believe it.
Do you believe do you believe most people believe it? Now, granted, it may be because I'm in a bubble, but I feel like people don't believe that. I
believe what? The headlines?
Believe that the media missed that Joe Biden was bad. Anybody that paid attention to Joe Biden,
they do believe that.
Do you think that even people that paid attention?
Man.
I'm talking about people that act. I'm not talking about the people that are.
I understand. Like the average person does believe the media made a mistake. Bro, I'm going to say it again. Hassan Piker did not know that Abrego Garcia was from El Salvador. I really want to drive this home because the dude's so influential. When I went to the White House,
but he's so dumb, and that's part of the thing.
That's my point. That's where they're getting information from. So look, I will give some sympathy to Hassan. He reads an article and it says a Maryland man was deported, and the first thing he thinks is some working class guy from Maryland was snatched up on accident and sent to El Salvador to go to prison, when in reality, it is a gang member from El Salvador who was arrested under suspicion of human trafficking in the past, who had been ordered to deport twice, who was adjudicated by two different immigration judge panels, first a judge, then a panel, as being a member of MS-13. And the only error was that he was supposed to get a USCIS interview before being deported. That is proper protocol. I go to the White House. I bring up the Maryland man hoax. Hassan Piker's response was, he's not from Maryland. Like, what, he's from D.C.? Like, is that what he's trying to say? Like, no, dude, he's not from Maryland. And then he tried to save face after the fact, but he really did not know. So you think that, as dumb as you think Hassan Piker is, Phil, that the average person watching him believes the media intentionally covered up Joe Biden.
So when I say the average person, I'm not thinking about the people that are watching left-leaning streamers. I'm talking about the people that consume maybe an hour of news. Again, when I'm talking about normies.
I genuinely think normies were probably like, wow, how'd the media miss that one?
I think that normies...
Or that he declined while he was in office and that it got worse over time.
Real bad. It was a downward spiral of decay.
That's the thing. I feel like most people, because like when I talked to the guys that were like some of the guys that were in the band, right? They knew Joe Biden wasn't there, and they're not particularly politically active. But when they watched him, they're like, this guy's like.
It was only
Okay,
after
okay,
the
we
debate.
got to do it. I did not have this planned, but I absolutely got to pull up this story. This is from last week. Have you guys seen this?
I saw the picture.
Joe Biden Photoshop himself into an Easter family photo. Okay, there's no question. This image that they posted, Joe Biden shared this photo yesterday, Easter Monday, but not everyone is convinced he was really there. I don't know if you saw this. Okay, Joe ain't there. I'm sorry. That is not a real photograph, right?
I mean,
How would he be sitting?
That I will tell you, there's no way Joe Biden is there. Where are his legs? How is he? So for those that are just listening, there's this photo of everybody in there wearing casual Easter Monday clothing. Joe's in a blue suit, squinting in the back, but he's appears to be standing up. Like, yo, where's his arm going? Like, come on. Everybody sitting down has their arms on their knees. 100% of these people. But Joe Biden, in the back, his arms are straight down at his sides. He's not. There's no way he's standing up because these people in front are sitting down. Look at this. Where is he?
And as someone who does a lot of Photoshop, it doesn't even look that good. When you look at the lighting on people's faces, it's not quite working for what they have going on here. The shadows would fall differently.
Oh, yeah.
It's like look at all the faces and then look at his. Why do all of them look so much different than his? And it looks like the photo's being taken from a different angle versus we should be looking up at him, and that's not the position of that photo.
That's a good point.
I mean,
he's like leaning down with his arm. He's like leaning down. He's sitting like this with his arms at the side.
But people aren't paying attention. They'll just scroll past it. They scroll past all the AI stuff every day, and they're like, "Oh, look at that! That's like a cute dog that's playing." It's like, no, Grandma, that's AI. But so many.
Look at this. Look, there's like 4 fingers popping up behind this dude's neck. Like, where's his arm? He's like this. Joe Biden's sitting like this. His arm goes straight down to the side, but then what's he doing?
I find it difficult to imagine him sitting down like that. He's not exactly. It would take. He definitely would need help getting up. He's not gonna, So
his weird clothes. Yeah, so weird.
Yeah.
Okay, look.
Weird.
I get it. People, I talk to people, I have family members, and they're like, we don't care about Joe Biden anymore. He's not the president. And I'm like, fair point. The only thing to consider is that if he auto-penned those pardons, then they may be, there's an argument, a court challenge, they may be void because auto-pen ain't for pardons. I don't think auto-pen is for anything, but this right here is funny. Okay, he's not in office anymore. Why did they do this? I don't get it.
I have no idea.
Anyway, look, the point is, this is emblematic of the entire Biden presidency. It was fake. There's no way that's a real photo. I mean, I suppose someone could easily just find this clip to figure out where it came from. Usually they do. Do you guys remember when?
I think they did, by the way.
They found where it came from?
I think I saw the picture of where it came from.
That's hilarious.
Maybe I
He
can
was
find
like
it
in
on
another.
X.
He was like in another country walking. He was in the same outfit.
Well, and really, that's what the Democrats like to do. It's smoke and mirrors. You can make it look like, and it wasn't until that debate that's where at least the leftists that I knew, that's when they really started saying something. They're like, whoa. They're like, this is a problem. And to be honest, I even feel a little bit bad for the Democrats that they decided to just slide Kamala Harris in there. And they never even had a chance to have a primary or anything because I don't think Kamala Harris would have been the pick because she did not do well the first time she ran for president. And I think just since she was VP, they're like, oh, well, we'll put her in. And that's not really even fair to the democratic process.
I
didn't even notice the cat was there at first. You see the cat?
Oh.
Where?
There's a cat right there.
Oh, above that lady's head.
Yeah, so people are pointing out, I looked it up real quick, the photo of Biden in the suit, it's the suit he wore relatively often as president.
Yeah.
I doubt he's wearing the same suit now. But again, this is what the Democratic Party is. Do you guys remember when Kate Middleton had that photoshopped image?
Yeah, because of her cancer and she was hiding from
Something like that. And then people found the photo came from the cover of a magazine or something.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So look, can I just point out, was it FDR had polio and they covered that up?
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think's going on with Joe Biden? They're going to cover it up. Of course they're going to cover it up. They're going to lie about everything. The question then becomes, who was actually doing all of these things? Because we know it wasn't him.
No, I mean, I assume that it would be mostly his chief of staff, whoever that was, actually doing the day to day. But the rest of, like, the decisions were made by committee. You know, they like the I imagine his advisors all got together and they discussed, this is what we should do, et cetera, and it was not an individual person, which is a terrible, terrible thing, because then you can't actually lay the blame on one person. That's why it's important to have an executive, so that way if things go wrong, you can say it's your effing fault. You know, who was it that had the sign on his desk that said the buck stops here? It wasn't Truman? I think it was Truman. So, and you know, and the point of that was he's the guy that's ultimately responsible, and that's what the president's supposed to be. You know, and when you have a committee or a group of advisors making the decisions, you can't actually punish someone for making a bad decision.
And then we saw the White House Correspondents Association, where, who was it, Alex Thompson, is that what it was?
Yep.
From Axios, was like, you know, we really missed this one, guys, and we lost the trust of the American people because of it. The headline's going to be, a journalist, you know, issues scathing rebuke of the failure of the media to catch the story about Biden's decline, because they are once again doing the exact same thing. These people are smarmy, evil pieces of garbage.
Yeah.
This is what they do. They lied to us the whole time. They gaslit the American people at Joe Biden's health. And then when caught, they're once again gaslighting, saying, wow, how did we miss this one? No, I don't buy it for a second. And so when I go to the White House and I point out, you don't have an independent White House Correspondents Association. You have one company. The White House Correspondents Association might as well be one company with 50 chairs, because they go in, they ask generic and obvious questions that everybody knows the answers to, or are meant to go viral, to just argue with Carolyn Levitt or whoever the press secretary is going to be at the time. And then they all report the exact same things. And you know how they coordinate it? They have group chats called journo lists. They've been doing this since the advent of social media. I used to be in one. I was in a couple of them. So back when I was working for Vice and Fusion, you get an invite from someone on Facebook and they're like, hey, we have a group chat. You join it. And what they don't realize is, it may seem innocent at first, but then they unify all of their talking points and their worldview solidifies in their own psychotic schizoid bubble of journalists. Then every single media outlet from small to large reports the exact same things.
The White House Correspondents Association is not only complicit in covering up for Joe Biden, I think they actually manufactured the cover-up in totality, because they had access to covering him. They had pool access. They were the people managing all of that. And the White House Correspondents Association, I think at this point, might even be beyond reform. And I think we should also anticipate a few of these losers down the line writing the book of, oh, Joe Biden was obviously senile the whole time. And like they'll have their reports on it, but they just want their, you know, New York Times best-selling books down the line in a decade or two, when they're able to write about what they saw, but didn't want to report on. They're going to wait a little bit more time until Joe Biden passes. They don't want to harm the party as much.
There's already books being released.
But even more. We're going to see everybody spill the beans. I think all of them, again, like there was a large pool of people who knew the condition of Joe Biden. They manufactured the cover-up here. Even they did such a good job that I actually think they had a lot of other Democrats fooled.
Well,
frankly.
and as a conservative, as someone who, you know, didn't want Joe Biden as my president, I still want a competent president. I don't want the commander-in-chief to be a bumbling old man that can't function and can't do his job. I would have much rather have him been competent. That's not the story I want there to be, but that's where we are.
You know, you're probably right, but I am torn a little bit, because Joe Biden's evil. And if he was competent and evil, I might be worried about the things he could have accomplished. But then I guess the inverse is he's incompetent evil, so his evil handlers just did it for him either way.
Incompetent evil, that sounds a lot like the government.
Yeah, maybe Joe Biden was just the apex of it. He represents the government. Next to government in the dictionary, you'll find his name.
And I mean, not to continue harping on the White House Correspondents Association, but
Please
I just
do.
can't
They
stop
deserve
thinking
it.
about like the double standards too. So right now, right, the worst thing that Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth had was the Signalgate scandal, right? But Secretary Lloyd Austin, this was Joe Biden's Secretary of Defense. He literally went under anesthesia. He wasn't awake, and nobody knew that he wasn't awake. The president didn't know that he went under. So if something were to happen, we didn't have somebody who was the head of the military at that time. The media didn't bother pushing back on this hard enough. Nobody was calling for him to resign. But over scandals like whatever Pete Hegseth might get into, they'll immediately call for his resignation. They'll go down the line in the press briefing room and harp on this. Every single person who gets called on will bring this up. Even Fox News oftentimes in the press briefing rooms. But for when Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin has his scandals, nobody cares. None of Joe Biden's scandals, nobody cares.
No, well,
So,
it doesn't matter if any Americans care. The only thing that matters is that the Democrat establishment, which includes the media, refuses to talk about it. So because they refuse to talk about it, the people feel like, well, what can we do?
all of the White House Correspondents Association's accusations against new media are really just telling on themselves. Everything they accuse us new media people of doing, they were doing during the previous administration. And I don't even think the new media people are as biased as people are, as the mainstream media are, and White House Correspondents Association is trying to make them out to be. But the White House Correspondents Association is everything that they say the new media is.
Absolutely. And what a sad state of media that this is where we are at in this, current time, where you have narratives that are being pushed and people aren't just doing independent research. Because even if you're a Democrat, you're a liberal, you have a complete different view than me, well, please just try to be a good journalist. But that's not.
Well, they're pushing advocacy journalism. Every single week, there's a new fake news immigration story. So, Tim, it's funny you're still bringing up the Maryland man hoax, because this week's hoax is the 2-year-old American citizen deported hoax, where it was an older woman who came in this country illegally for decades, was being deported, and she chose to take her 2-year-old American daughter with her. But they're saying, oh no, they're deporting the 2-year-old American citizen. That's this week's immigration hoax.
I believe, was it Thomas Jefferson who said, a man who reads nothing is better informed than a man who reads the newspaper? Yeah. I could be wrong. I don't know if that was him. Yeah. Let's jump to the story from the Post-Millennial. MSNBC censors images of illegal immigrant criminal lawn signs at White House Broadcast Row. The White House has not provided any information to support their claims that these are criminals who have been arrested. This is how insane these people are. Just show it and say it. Check this clip out.
Has put up about 100 posters of what they say are unauthorized immigrants who have been arrested for violent crimes. You can see them there. They put them up on the driveway of the White House. If you look here, that's the West Wing just at the forefront, the executive mansion itself to the left. But what's particularly noteworthy about this location is it is right directly behind the positions where TV correspondents do their hits from the White House lawn. So therefore, no matter what network you're on, that includes MSNBC.
Brilliant.
If you're doing a hit from the White House right now, those pictures will be behind you. The White House doing a briefing in about a half hour about what they're doing here. White House.
That is absolutely brilliant. Now, MSNBC blurred them out. Not in that by the way, but we do have another. This is the actual video. They say what's particularly noteworthy about the location is right behind it. In posting the clip on TikTok and Instagram, MSNBC and Morning Joe blurred the mugshot photos of those arrested. Quote, the White House has not provided any information to support their claims. These are criminals who have been arrested. Maria Teresa Kumar urged caution, warning that some past images promoted by officials were found to be altered. She said, our job is always to have our true north, and encouraged others to blur out the photos as well. I just said, look at the photos of all these Maryland men. Maryland man, of course, is the new slang in this photo, or this video. All of these guys have been arrested on these charges. So that's it. What's the point they're trying to make? I'll tell you. Donald Trump was speaking, and when he was about to get into that Abrego Garcia was an MS-13 gang member, MSNBC cut away and said, you were just listening to the president, and then shut him down. This is why people like Hassan Piker don't know the truth. Then they go on their shows and are absolutely convinced what they're saying is true and that we are the bad people lying. So I'll tell you this. One of my favorite pastimes, of course, is to go on to liberal subreddits. Just go to these liberal podcasters and see what they're saying. Steve Bannon says this all the time as well. He only watches MSNBC. He wants to know how they think and what they're thinking. My favorite post from today, I think it was from today, was they were saying that on the right, they're actually arguing that Abrego Garcia is some kind of dangerous criminal and not a working family man who fled a dangerous country to live a better life. Yo, this is why I think David Pakman is evil. You know, he made a video titled like, "I've been warned not to leave the country." He is WWE. I'll tell you this. Sam Cedar is like, what's lower than WWE? Like the amateur league.
What's the Mexican version?
Street fighting?
Well, no, street fighting's real.
Lucha Libres.
Yeah, but they're cool.
There's what is it? What's what Valley Wrestling?
I don't know,
There's
something
a
like
Netflix
that.
documentary on it. I want to say maybe Apple Valley, but no, that's our waste company.
David Pakman is way better at the sophistry than Sam Cedar is. Sam Cedar is just like lowbrow, low quality. He's like, I'll just make a video about Tim again. And that's what he does. Like every third video is about me. And then he gets a bunch of views because that's what his channel is. David Pakman does things where like he made a video titled Trump says he's going to wipe blue states off the map. Literally never happened. He made a video that's got like millions of views titled, I've been warned not to leave the country. Oh, shut up, David. No, you weren't. It's ridiculous. Trump's not going to deport you. What? But it works because these people believe this stuff. And the problem is, how do you, look, here's a challenge. Do you want a comforting lie or a difficult truth? And most people say, give me the comforting lie. That's reality. And so the liberals flock to the guy who's going to say, you're perfect in every way and you can do no wrong. It's everyone else that's a problem. And that's the easy path. And on the right, you've got people fighting with each other over these stories. And I mean, like I pointed out earlier with Trump DeSantis, the Democrats just scammed everything. They had all the Democrat moderates drop out and endorse Joe Biden. They all march in lockstep. On the right, it was vicious. Even the Nikki Haley supporters against the DeSantis. Then Vivek was trying to play nice with Trump, but then getting attacked and being called fake. On the right, you have people of different political ideologies fighting with each other, but then unifying around the idea that the left is a bunch of crackpot cultists lying to their audiences.
Well, I mean, they're obviously lying to their audiences, but that's all they have. You know, if they can't articulate honestly what's going on and just say we disagree with this, even though they could make a reasonable argument that says, hey, you know, because of due process, we're concerned with this, and because of, you know, whatever. But
look, it's even worked on it's even worked on conservatives. Conservatives have been convinced that due process didn't happen. They're being convinced that Trump should suspend habeas corpus. They're being convinced that Trump should block trials. Let me break it down for everybody, okay? There are no trials for illegal immigrants. Illegal immigrants people who cross the border illegally, they have what's called expedited removal. You don't go to a judge for this. They're saying, Rogan O'Hanley's asking about suspending habeas corpus because there's got to be habeas hearings. No. It's not the same thing as an American citizen. All that happens is an immigration official asks the person, are you an American citizen? No. Do you have an ID or anything? No. There's your habeas. That's it. You're done. And then the due process thing. I have heard from so many conservatives, middle of the road, moderate right, anti-establishment, anti-democrats saying, well, we shouldn't give due process to illegal immigrants. No. They do get due process. Trump has literally done nothing illegal. What they're doing is, in the media, they're gaslighting you into thinking due process for you is the same as it would be for everybody, which has never been reality. If you are an illegal immigrant, you have a hearing. You have an immigration official who just says it could be an ICE agent. There you go. We have an administrative warrant. Goodbye. Deportation. They negotiate with your home country. There's no judges. There's no juries. There's no trials. It is in out.
If the Trump administration wants to get anywhere near their goals of these mass deportations, they need to be absolutely relentless and cannot give up to any of these fake news immigration story narratives. As soon as some of these start to pick up hold and they try to have due process and review all of each individual illegal immigrant we try to deport, we will get nowhere. There were 20 million some odd illegal immigrants in our country right now. And if anything, I don't believe the administration goes far enough. I think if we really want people to self-deport in mass numbers, we are going to need to hold people who employ illegal immigrants knowingly accountable, because there's still a whole underclass of people here who are working illegally. And we're going after the criminals right now, right? On Pebble Lane in the White House. That's what they were showing, people, criminals. But I mean, the fact of the matter is most illegal immigrants are criminals in the sense that they're in this country illegally, but aren't, murderers or committed burglaries as were the criminals on Pebble Lane Street. So I guess the idea here is they need to move fast, and they need to actually get to rev this up and not only go after criminals if they want to get anywhere near the mass deportation numbers. I do think Stephen Miller has been doing an effective job at this. Tom Homan has been deporting illegals for 40 some odd years, longer than I've been alive. So I think the Trump administration is in good hands with some of these immigration hawks that are in there.
I just want to make sure we have this for everybody from USA.gov. After a non-citizen is detained, they may go before a judge in immigration court during the deportation process. In some cases, a non-citizen is subject to expedited removal without being able to attend a hearing in immigration court. Expedited removal may happen when a non-citizen comes to the U.S. without proper travel documents, uses forged travel documents, does not comply with their visa or other entry document requirements. And that first one is all you need to know. Comes to the U.S. without proper travel documents. What does that mean? If you crossed the border illegally, you do not get a hearing. You are subject to expedited removal. That is your due process. The process that you are due in this system is when you cross the border illegally without paperwork, we send you back. Now look at this. If you did come in here with forged travel documents, expedited. If you did not comply with your visa or other entry document requirements, meaning even if you are here in good standing, if you are in violation of the terms of your visa, you don't get to go before a judge. That is the due process afforded non-citizens as it pertains to deportation. So I implore everybody out there to understand that Democrats are lying when they conflate a jury trial with due process. That way, when Trump said we shouldn't give trials to illegal immigrants, he wasn't saying strip them of their right to a trial. They never had one. He was saying we should not create a process by which we give trials to illegal immigrants. The media then misconstrues it, gaslights people. This is how they're going to make permanent illegal immigration the norm in this country, by gaslighting Americans into thinking that you have to have trials. So that way, in 2028, if a Democrat wins, or maybe 2032, they'll then go, but don't forget, it is the norm in this country to have a jury trial anytime a non-citizen enters the country, which makes it impossible to deport.
It's purposefully setting up a broken system is what they are trying to do here. Bring in millions upon millions of illegal immigrants and then having to try to make the process of removing them make you a Nazi.
Well, not only that, the point is that's because they want them to stay in order to, as we've discussed, to change the makeup of the United States. They want to dilute the voting power of the existing, citizenry. They want to just import people that they think will vote more friendly to the Democrats.
So I have a question for you guys. So prior to working for myself, I actually worked for the prosecuting attorney's office in Jefferson County as a victim advocate for almost 3 years. So I actually saw this firsthand, where we were dealing with illegal immigrants that committed really bad crimes to citizens. So my question is, should we, if we catch these people in our country and we're like, hey, you've done really bad stuff, should we just automatically kick them out? Or should we make them, stand trial first and then kick them out?
Stand trial in their country for the crimes. Make sure they get locked up in the country that we deport them back to, is I think.
Can we make sure that actually happens, though?
If they want good relationships with the United States, they better bet they...
So as it pertains to some of these really bad criminals, the Trump administration has dropped the criminal charges to get them out of the country faster. That is not the United States' responsibility to deal with criminal gang members. Send them back to their country. So Abrego Garcia goes to jail. Okay, Well, that's El Salvador. He's El Salvadoran. Bye.
Yeah. My concern is that if they do go back to their country, that they might, if they aren't arrested and locked up there, they might get out and come back into the U.S. because it's so easy for them to cross back over and then try to re-victimize, their original victim, just because that's how bad our border security is right now. And that's a real possibility.
Definitely. If we keep locking up illegal immigrants here for crimes they were committing, it's a total drag on our society. I think that's why we need to get them locked up abroad. And if they want good relationships with us, we have to make them do that.
I don't think that it's super easy to get back in the U.S. right now. I think that it has been, but it's not currently. But anyway.
As a quick aside, here's a really funny story. Detroit woman may be deported after taking wrong turn at Canadian-U.S. border. Oh, gee, oh, golly me. I thought about this and I was like, wow, is Canada gonna deport a Detroit woman back to Detroit? Because she's an American? No, it's pretty obvious, right? Detroit woman. I love this. A woman from Guatemala who lives in Detroit. Oh. Uh-huh. But as you mentioned, people read the headlines. And so they're going to see this and they go, oh my God. That's the
from the AP
thing.
too. That's so crazy, man. What is going on?
It blows my mind that these organizations have no desire to repair their destroyed reputations. Again, for whether it be the narrative that they were spinning last night at the White House Correspondents' Dinner or things like that. Like, they have absolutely no desire to repair their absolutely destroyed reputations. And they have absolutely destroyed their reputation. Like the legacy media, the average person trusts them less than Congress. It's like down in the low double digits, like 15% of America or something like that. I don't remember exactly. But
and you figure they have two paths in front of them. They could try to make a correction, right? They could try to get a little bit better, be like, hey, we've gotten a little too far gone here. Let's go this route. Instead, they're like, what's the biggest headline? What will get us the most clicks? Let's do whatever that is.
Yep. And so they end up marching in lockstep, posting nonsense. They meet with each other. They're in private chat groups, and they just lie. You know what it is largely is they view themselves egotistically. A great example is, and I don't mean to be kind of a dick, but when Tara Palmieri was here, she's this Brooklyn-based journalist, and I respect that. I will say this, we'll give a compliment before I deride her. She came on, we debated. The Green Room episode was actually feminism versus I was basically saying a lot of women lie to win sexual harassment suits at the workplace, not all. And she was arguing with me, but she didn't get flustered or angry or anything. And we've had that. So I'm like, I respect it. If you can argue with me and I'm going to get all heated and you're going to get all heated, and then afterwards it's like, I'm not fazed by it. However, she said she always wanted to be a muckraker. Nellie Bly. This is the narcissistic personality disorder of these journalists. They view themselves as the main character, as the arbiters of truth and justice in the American way. They think that they are on a mission to save the planet, and only they can do it. They are pure ego and sociopathic narcissism, just tightly wound. And so when they see Trump and they're stupid, they're midwits really, which means they're actually a little bit smarter than normal, but not smart enough to understand deep, complex systems. They say, only I can make this right. I will lie to help the people because I'm the philosopher king. That's how they view themselves. So they go into the newsroom, they all say, here's the approved narrative, and we can defeat Donald Trump. Instead of saying, I don't know, do your thing, guys, and we'll figure out what's true. That's the way it should be.
Well, and I think it's similar to the way that we're treating science these days, too, because it should be in a real good experiment that you just see what happens. You have your hypothesis, but then you just reach whatever conclusion there is. And that's what journalists should be doing, is doing real journalism. Just get to the bottom of things, come in with an open mind and just see what's going on and then report exactly that. And instead, it's creating a narrative. It's you get to the end goal of what you want to say and then you look for evidence to support it. That is the wrong way to go about it.
Yep. Yeah. So, my view largely is if it's true, it's true. If it's not, it's not. If Trump does something. So right now, the reason why Trump won the popular mandate is because reality has a conservative bias these days. If you're I was just, I guest appeared on Charlie Kirk's show earlier. Charlie Kirk and I can have a conversation where we disagree on policy issues, and it's very boring. It's Ben Shapiro too. Very boring. Elaad and I disagree. Sometimes we get heated. But in the end,
it's so much fun to disagree with him.
but we agree on the basic news facts of a story. So in the end, we live in the same universe. And that's all that matters. If Trump kicked a dog in the face and I watched a video, I'd be like, he did it. Like I fact checked that. Now I will say, considering they've lied so much, I almost just don't believe when they disparage Trump. I'm like, I'm gonna wait a week, because this is a normal thing you got to do. If the media comes out and says Orange Man did bad thing, wait 1 week and then it gets debunked. And then you're like, okay, there it is. The media gets released, the video gets released, the full context gets released. Trump never did that thing. They're lying.
Did you know that Tara Palmieri, she still hung up on the Very Fine People hoax?
Yes, on the show.
We talked about it in the after show.
After you left even, she was extremely hung up on this and would not accept that she was misled at all.
Really? Did you show her the video?
Oh, yeah, we talked about it.
I pulled up Snopes and showed her.
No. Even beyond that, she said, no. I still think he called them very fine people.
It's a cult, okay? Yeah. Because if you can't change your mind in the presence of facts, you are in a cult. And she's desperate to hold on to that.
Yeah, and it was astonishing because in this new media space, I don't feel like you could still be buying that hard into fake news like that. But she was really willing to stand by it. And then the way she started looking at us weird, like we were trying to push, like we were getting, we were the fake news.
Because, okay, so people like her, and again, I respect her for being able to withstand the heat, and she was, after when I was leaving, she was super chill. Some people, they bolt out of here so pissed off.
Yeah.
But she was chill despite the fact it got heated. In her world, she doesn't care what the facts are. She doesn't care what the video shows. What she cares about is that she has a group of people surrounding her that demand she believe what they believe. And so truth is predicated upon her social order, not reality. And I think that's largely divided between the feminine and masculine worldviews. I'm not trying to drag women by saying this, but the saying goes that women are subject-oriented, men are object-oriented, which means guys are going to look at the video and say, that is the thing. Women are going to look to the people and say, what is the thing? You tell me. And so they're much more influenced by social pressures, which is why young girls are more likely to get depressed from Instagram and TikTok and things like that. And why you can show a news article and a video to a female Brooklyn journalist proving she's wrong and she won't believe it.
Courtney, as the token woman, what's your take on that? What's your response?
Well, you have to, at a certain point, just understand that facts are facts. Women can be a little bit more emotional at times, but you should also still have a brain and you should use it. You should think for yourself. And I think that's the problem, is that so many people don't truly analyze what's going on, what's actually in front of them, and think for themselves. That's what you need to do. And if you do that, people will trust you more. To me, I've always found that just being honest, sharing your, whatever is there, will actually, in the long run, help you out more. But that's not the world of journalists.
Here's an article from the New York Times from February 18th, 2021, titled, "Don't Go Down the Rabbit Hole. Critical thinking as we're taught to do it isn't helping in the fight against misinformation."
I do think media literacy is at an all-time low.
This is the New York Times in 2021 telling people not to think critically.
Yeah.
Okay.
You might be confused by the conclusions you come to, right?
And look at the date on this. February of 2021. What was happening in February of 2021?
Lockdowns.
It was lockdowns. Was
J6.
It not vaccines?
It was vaccines. It was J6. It was the election was stolen narrative. And they were desperate to make sure, strangely, that a lab leak, which they've now basically admitted. Yep. And it wasn't until, I think, was like a year or two ago, they debunked Very Fine People. You had all of these hoaxes that they laid out. And the New York Times says, don't think critically. So I'll just say this to the Democrats. When you... That's your vibe, the New York Times. Don't think critically. We kind of knew that. Well, let's jump to this next story. We've got this one from the Post Millennial. Ladies and gentlemen, get ready for a summer of love because J.B. Pritzker is calling for a mass uprising against Trump.
In the times upon which history turns. Never before in my life have I called for mass protests. for mobilization, for disruption. But I am now. These Republicans cannot know a moment of peace. They have to understand that we will fight their cruelty with every megaphone and microphone that we have. We must castigate them on the soapbox and then punish them at the ballot box.
So I just want to real quick point out, that is the governor of Illinois. Illinois. How did I do that? I'm from there. Just gave he gave carte blanche to the far left extremists to go and riot.
They must feel in their bones that when we survive this shameful episode of American history with our democracy intact, because we have no alternative but to do just that, that we will relegate their portraits to the museum halls reserved for tyrants and traitors.
Now, why is this scumbag doing it? Because he wants to run in 2028. That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
It's just, there's no leadership. There's no plan. There's no solutions.
I don't know how someone as a leader can tell people that you should go be violent. How can you do that and have any integrity at all?
Well, to be fair, he straddled the line, calling for an uprising and saying Republicans shouldn't know a moment of peace, but then said we'll fight them with megaphones and microphones. And that's how you veil it. He did say protests, but consider what the left does with their protests. I think he would need to explicitly say peaceful. And Scott Pressler does. And the media says, why are you saying that? Is it because the right is violent? And he goes, no, it's because you will lie and say I called for violence. So I always say peaceful. I think they should do it as well. But once again, this is just a wealthy billionaire scumbag who wants to run for office. And so he's demagoguing. They're doing exactly what they accuse Trump of doing, but they do it themselves. They violate the Constitution. They call for violence and mass uprisings, and they do it because they want power.
Mm. His brother, I think it's worth mentioning, is Jennifer Pritzker, which is
his brother?
Yeah, it's the first openly transgender billionaire. Oh. Just something to consider about the Pritzkers, that they are deep-pocketed progressives who donate heavily to same-sex issue causes and gender issues. I was trying to read the specifics in this article. There's a very long article about their philanthropy.
Is that a twin brother?
There's no such thing as transgender.
Well, that's why I said brother. I didn't want anybody. No. I got it confused. No, it's the cousin. It's the cousin.
Oh.
And,
well, I find that semantically silly. There is a thing as transgender.
I disagree.
Well, it describes what a person does when they start dressing like a woman.
It's a person who believes they're the opposite gender.
Like this person is a real person, and they're engaged in a behavior that we describe as being transgender or gender dysphoric. You can tell them that they're wrong and they're men, but
mental illness.
It's a DSM-5 mental disorder.
Yes, disorder, my bad.
Mental disorder.
But it's such an interesting coalition that the Democrats are managing to assemble, because while you have Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez running around the country saying, fight the oligarchy, you still have many Democrat billionaires at the top of their party telling people to what was that quote again from him? I don't want to get sued by any of these rich people.
Which one?
Something dumb?
A moment of
Republicans will know no moment of peace?
Yeah. These people will sue you. So I wanted to cover my bases.
This is no different than things that Maxine Waters was saying in 2020 or 2021. This is it's been the same MO in the context of Donald Trump and Republicans, because they don't just mean Donald Trump. If Donald Trump has fundamentally changed the Republican Party, the old school Republicans have really gone over to the progressive side very strongly, and so the idea that there are Republicans that would not be considered MAGA Republicans nowadays, I think that ship has sailed. To the progressives, everybody that's not a progressive, everybody that is a Republican is a MAGA Republican, and they might even likely be right, because like I said, I think that Donald Trump has changed the Republican Party. I think that now that Donald Trump has shown that you can do things, I don't think there will be another president that comes in as a Republican that can just do whatever the Democrats want and expect to be elected for a second term. I don't think that the party would be, or the base would be satisfied at all.
I think this is base-led, by the way, at least among the Democrats. I don't think this is top-down. The cannot know a moment of peace isn't because Pritzker's trying to tell the people below him to do that. I think the people below him are saying, we want to fight back. We want somebody to champion the idea of fighting back and posturing like that, and he's trying to take that mantle. Same with the guy from the Indian guy that we were talking about earlier, Representative Shri.
I do think it's funny how if you go to these liberal podcast subreddits, how often they talk about Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
They're stealing your thing.
I know, man. Come on. I was saying Civil War before it was cool.
You're not.
Kind of funny that the side without the guns wants a civil war.
No, not. We've talked about this on the podcast before. If there is going to be civil war, civil strife, let it happen when the Republicans are in control of the government. So the Republicans have control of the military, and let the left go ahead and take on the military.
But that's the point. You are correct. But liberals are buying guns now. So
everybody should have a gun. So
I agree. I have very many of them. But this is the rhetoric the left is pushing. They're saying it's time to go buy guns. And if you go to these subreddits, younger liberals, and I'm talking about leftists, love guns. We know they do. Like actual commies, yes. They walk around with rifles. They love guns. They love the Second Amendment. But liberals now, especially since the riots, have been posting on these forums on Reddit saying, "Shut up and go buy a gun." And they're specifically saying, gun nuts are armed to the teeth and we are not. This is going to get bad. So the point is, when homie Pritzker is saying rise up, and we've already seen fire bombings, and I mean, they were shooting up Teslas.
Yeah.
Shooting up Teslas, cars and locations. Creating the space for more violence, whether it's, I was calling for a peaceful protest, all that's going to do is create more violence. And the point about these people calling for, or saying civil war is coming is, they genuinely are starting to recognize, and for whatever reason, they mocked me all the time when I said, we are tracking towards civil war. It doesn't mean it happens, because we've been on like the civil rights era was a civil strife period, didn't go to civil war. But now that liberals are saying it, it certainly feels like we're on a highway with no exits. It's going in one direction, and all we can do is go as fast as we can. So that's the worrying thing. When Pritzker's view of rallying the people so he can win in 2028 is telling them to rise up in perpetual mass uprising against Republicans, which we've already seen take violent form, the next move to one-up Pritzker for 2028 is going to be to say more. If you want to run for office as a Democrat, and Pritzker has already staked the claim to, I have called for mass protests, what do you say? Well, I agree we should have mass protests. They'll say, then why would I vote for you? I can vote for Pritzker. He's already got it. I think we should protest more.
Well, Kamala Harris set the bar with fundraising for bond for people who were committing crimes during the BLM riots, I believe. Yeah.
Indeed. So I see this as potential for escalation. But the question that everyone asks then is, do the Democrats actually have the metrics? Right. So they may say these things, but Trump won the popular vote. I don't think with these polls, you've got polls coming out saying Trump's underwater now. And it's like his approval rating is like -4. So it's like, okay, within the margin of error, it could be -1, it could be -4, it could be a little bit more, -7. Sure, I guess. What do we learn from these things? Not much. It doesn't mean people are motivated to do anything, but they are trying to create this perception of, growing animosity towards Trump. The question then becomes, will that create a shift where Democrats actually, once again, have popular support for mass rioting?
I don't think so. It's a very different place on the internet where people are really bold and they like to say things that are edgy. In the actual population, when you are out and about in the world, aside from a couple token crazy people, most people are not like that. Look, I've been going and door knocking, and I've talked to a lot of liberal voters. Most of them are kind and friendly, and I can have a nice conversation with them. That's not what real people are like. So I don't think that we really are headed in that direction now. Doesn't mean that you won't get a bunch of radical kids all riled up and then they won't go do something violent. But the actual country, the actual core of who we are, I don't think we're anywhere near that.
It might be because you're in West Virginia. I think people are more polite out here for one reason or another.
I get out. I've traveled. Okay. I've been other places.
Isn't it crazy how Frederick, Maryland, is woke as a joke, and then you cross over into West Virginia, and it's substantially less. It's still there. You can still see it, but way more conservative. That's crazy to me.
The more people that say, I don't think this is going to, and this is up until right now, this has been 100% my view that nothing was going to actually happen. The more people I hear agree with me, the more I'm like, I don't know, man. Now all these people saying it, I'm starting to worry.
Worry about civil war?
Yeah, well, worry about what the summer's going to be like. The more people that say nothing's going to happen, the more I'm like, well, maybe, maybe. Because, again, I'm of kind of the same opinion. Without something like COVID to get the average normal people out on the streets. Well, and I kind of think that they wouldn't. I think it's going to be, if there is something that happens, I think it's going to be more isolated incidents, more small, firebombing of Tesla, those types of things. But the concern I have is, when does that become, when do they attack people? As opposed to
and one thing else I think that's important to see. You notice how he said coming up soon in summer? That's always when they like to have their big riots, because it's when it's nice outside and they can rally people to go spend some time out there then. It's never in January or in November.
I will say this. What is the biggest risk to Donald Trump? Is it the deportation of Kilmar Abrego Garcia? No. Is it the mass deportation of MS-13 and TDA? No. Is it the mass deportation of any illegal government? Absolutely not. Is it the tariffs? Not on the surface. But I'm a fan of strategic tariffs targeting specific industries and resources, because our industry has been gutted and the U.S. can't compete with slave labor in foreign countries in Southeast Asia. But Trump's blanket tariffs, recipe for disaster if he does not have a functional plan. I'm not saying he doesn't, but the rumor is that with the 145% tariffs on China, a bunch of CEOs went to the White House. This is true. And they met with Trump. And they apparently told him, we are weeks away from barren shelves at box stores. Yeah. We are weeks away from going to Target and there not being silverware or clothing or food because of how much we get made in China. Now, it may be around, I think it's like 10 to 13% of our goods are made in China. But people need to understand that if there's a component that is made in China and is required for a let's say so we get our TVs from China, to be honest, China and Korean stuff. But let's say that there's a vehicle that gets made, like we make our cars here in the United States, and we source key components from China. So with the tariffs, you're going to see a shortage of a lot more than just these things. None of what Trump has done pertaining to deportation, Doge, none of that will create a summer of love. But I guarantee you will get a summer of love and fire, the likes of which we have not seen, if there are food shortages.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not convinced there will be absolute food shortages because Americans are fat and happy, but general product shortages, putting a strain on families in any capacity, high cost of food, and then you're going to see people rioting that you would not expect to see riot. This is not an opinion. This is a fact of riots. When food costs go up or access to food goes down, people riot in huge numbers. But let's jump to this next story, which is Facebook is censoring people. From the Post-Millennial, Facebook blocks Charlestown, West Virginia City Council candidates page with no further appeal. They reviewed it, and then just today I got a notice, we disabled your account. So let me start by saying this is a local city council race for us here in Charlestown, West Virginia. And it's written by Libby Emmons. Why? Well, because she lives out here too. And we live out here. And this is important because for some reason, this conservative town in a conservative state in the second most Trump supporting state in the country has a liberal Democrat city council. And I asked a council member, how is that possible? And he says, conservatives aren't going out and voting. I will tell you this. Courtney is here. You're running. And I think Facebook intentionally shut down your page to put their thumb on the scale, even though it's a small election. Their attitude is probably just damage as many conservative candidacies as we can across the board and get progressives in control of cities.
I was in shock that this happened. You hear about, everyone's against you, the media, this and that. And I don't know, I try to actually think about things and make sure that that's real and it's not just a news story, but it happened to me. There was nothing controversial on my page. And so I'm just so grateful that I'm a candidate who is on other social media platforms and actually has a voice to speak out about something like this happening. Thankfully, I'm going to try to still be able to maybe win my race, and this isn't going to be this huge, devastating blow, hopefully.
But I mean, they're clearly, what was the reason they gave for censoring your Facebook?
They said I broke community guidelines and that I was impersonating Courtney Nill.
But you are.
I am, in fact, Courtney Nill.
Indeed.
I always have been.
Here's the thing. I know for a lot of people, you might be saying it's like a local story. They're probably doing this to tens of thousands of local elections, because local elections are where you win everything. Charlestown passed, and you can tell me more about this probably because you know more. What was it? They passed some kind of like LGBTQ pride resolution or something?
Well, I know that right now on the books, no one's used it as far as I know. Currently, folks that are transgender and want to use the bathroom that they want to use, in bathrooms, that applies to locker rooms, that the businesses would have to allow them to use whatever bathroom or locker room that they want, or they could civilly be sued by, they were open for civil lawsuit.
Jefferson County recently, this is where Charlestown is, banned drag shows with kids too. Berkeley County, where we are, allow it. And in Martinsburg, West Virginia, which again, you'd think like West Virginia is going to be red, they had a drag show in front of the building we own with children on stage. Wow. So I actually complained to the governor. At the time, he was AG, but now he's the governor, Morrissey. And I was like, how is this possible? And he's like, the prosecutors need to, it is illegal. You can't do this. The law, there's already laws against lewd displays, and it's aggravated with children around. But my bigger concern, just Zuckerberg is doing this apology tour kind of thing. It's not an apology tour, but he's like, we made a mistake about censoring and we're not going to do it. So he goes on Rogan. He just went on Theo Von. He rejected coming on this show.
Oh, really? Wow. You reached out to him and a formal rejection?
And they gave us a formal rejection.
We'll
At this time, we must decline or something like that.
Wow, that's BS.
But he's doing the circuit. He's going on shows where he's not going to get any legitimate pushback because he's trying to fix his image. If he came on this show, we'd be like, hey, Mark, fix it. Hey, uncensor us. And they're like, we don't want to do that. Because they are still censoring conservatives heavily and just lying to the press. I mean, look, the dude's a smart guy. He's a billionaire. He said, we want to keep censoring Trump supporters and conservatives, but they're getting mad at us. I got it. I'll just go on Joe Rogan's show and claim that I'm not. And that's it.
Yeah, we're not that gullible. We're going to look at what's actually happening. And thank goodness for Elon buying X. Like, I know I said that earlier, but if I didn't have that as a platform to voice what's going on, I actually tagged Zuckerberg the other day in the post that I made about it. And I'm like, hey, what's the deal? This is my official campaign page. The most controversial thing that I had on there was footage from the farmers market and highlighting local, small, family-owned businesses.
Is your opponent on Facebook?
He is.
He is. So he's allowed to have a Facebook and you're not?
It seems like it.
You should sue.
I'm open to it. Any attorneys, you're welcome to contact me.
Courtney, I wanted to commend you for putting yourself out there and deciding to run this race. Obviously, the problem that you guys think here is that there are too many liberals on the city council, and that's because conservatives don't run. So that's why I commend you for running. Can you give us your quick elevator pitch on why you decided to run and what change you want to make in the community here?
So I was born and raised in Charlestown, West Virginia. It's a community that I care about. Like I said, I spent time at the prosecuting attorney's office, and at my time there, I was helping crime victims of Charlestown. I was trying to help them deal with all the problems that they are facing. And when you see sexual violence, when you see theft, whatever it is, I'm like, okay, well, I want to help these people. So I decided to move on with my career, but I still want to help Charlestown. And I don't even want to think about it as being conservative or being liberal. We just need new ideas, new fresh perspectives. Right now, with city council, you have a lot of the people all just kind of go along with everything together rather than offering a different opinion. I still want to be kind and work with all these people, and I want to represent even the Democrats that are in my district. I want to represent them too, and I want them to know that they can come to me with any problems, and I'm going to try to solve it, and I'm going to try to make a good life for them. But we need young people. We need the freedom. And so I'm just glad to serve. I'm glad I get this opportunity.
What is your opponent running on?
Well, we had a candidate forum a few weeks ago. I know that he wants to put in bathrooms for the homeless people. That was his solution to homelessness. And he thinks that we have plenty of economic growth and we don't need more.
Wait, what?
That's a terrible idea.
I couldn't believe when he said it. I don't know if he misspoke, but yep, that's what he said.
Yikes.
And to be clear, this isn't like a super glamorous, high-paying position that you'll be coasting off of for the rest of your life on.
Yep, it makes less than $5,000 a year. It's mostly just a community service.
I'm surprised there's any pay at all. A lot of, city council stuff is just, you just do it. You just volunteer, basically.
Yeah, I'm grateful there's a little bit.
What made you truly, what sparked the want to run beyond, the generic wanting to make a difference in your community that you grew up in? And what made you think this is something you could be successful in? Was there something that happened, a moment that you had where you went, this is wrong, I want to run to change because of this? Or
Well, I've spent a lot of time on X talking about politics. I talk about what I see is happening in the country, about what issues there are, and rather than just talking about it, I want to actually do something, whether that means getting good people elected to these offices and volunteering on campaigns, working on campaigns. I've done all of that. And when my local community members brought it up to me, hey, we need some good people on Charlestown City Council. Would you consider running? And it took me a little bit. I didn't just automatically say yes. I had to think it over because it meant that I was going to lose my anonymity online. It could open me up to stalkers and problems, but I care. I just care. And that's what we need, is we need more people that are willing to do the hard work. Yeah, there's better things I could do than spend my time, going and knocking on every door in Charlestown to try to win an election. But if I can make a difference on city council, then it's worth it.
Do you go to Latin Mass?
I don't. I'm just a regular Protestant.
Regular? Oh, okay. But you've never been to it? Because
I have been in that church. It's quite pretty.
Yeah. Phil's been there.
He said
it was metal.
It is the most. It's the most metal Catholic church experience that I've ever been to in my life. So it's very cool though. It is really, really. If you have never been to a Latin Mass and you're a Catholic or even Catholic curious, such as myself, I would recommend going. It's very cool.
I wanted to say that was an interesting background, and we don't need to talk. Your race is very interesting, and
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting pipeline. It seems as though Twitter shit poster to potential city council member pipeline. I hope others can take a cue from you. You could just be a poster on Twitter one day and get involved in your local community and then decide to run for something. And Courtney has an opportunity here to represent her community. And, people really can make a difference in their communities. And first step
people got to run.
Yeah, exactly.
We need more people in more city councils, in more local offices. We had the States Freedom Caucus guys on here last week.
Yep.
If we are going to win, it's got to be at the state level. People don't realize this. Your state reps, your city council, your state senators, they're the ones shaping the districts and the rules that then affect the federal government. And too many people just vote for president and then they walk away. And then what happens is crackpots will lie about their, what we've been seeing in West Virginia is the far left has been claiming they're nonpartisan, hiding their political views, and then getting on school boards.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden the school is full of weird stuff. The kids are being taught weird sex stuff. This is actually happening in Jefferson County. And then parents are like, whoa, why is my kid learning this? And they look at the school board and they're like, that's a progressive leftist who moved here from out of town.
I think a lot of people would be surprised at how much success they could have in local politics if they just put in an honest effort. In off-year elections, people already don't know who their local Congress people are, let alone their local state and further down ballot in city council. So putting in an honest effort, the fundraising isn't super high. Courtney, I don't know how many people are going to be voting in your race, but I'm sure it'll be decided by less than 100 or so voters. And, there are elections that are happening constantly on an annual basis, and you could really make a big difference from the grassroots and up.
I just want to say, the guy you're running against, he's a progressive guy.
Yes.
Are there any West Virginia progressive podcasts?
I'm not aware of any. Not that I would be listening to them.
But this is the crazy thing. You should win easily in West Virginia. I mean, Riley Moore is our rep. And he's got a bill that you brought up where he wants to strip the visas of 300,000 Chinese national students because they're a threat to national security. I mean, that ain't no progressive position. That's a lot of Maryland men getting sent home. Or I suppose if they're Chinese nationals, they're California men or something. But in this district, you'd think there's no contest. Yet still, Charlestown is, I believe it's majority like progressive, isn't it?
So not really. So the people that show up to actually vote, there's a lot of people that are downtown, and that's where you have most of the more liberal voters all concentrated is downtown, where they can walk to the polling place, because that's the thing. This polling isn't taking place at people's regular polling locations that they use in the general election. No, this all occurs at City Hall, and the people closest to City Hall tend to vote the most. And so my thing that I've been working on is going out to the other neighborhoods that are still Charlestown. They're still within the city limits, but these people are not very civilly engaged. And I'm trying to let them know that, hey, there's just an election coming up. Please just show up and vote for someone.
But the city council is dominated by progressives.
It is.
Right. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
So it's a red area that should have a Republican or conservative leaning city council, but it's got a progressive city council that voted in a Pride Month resolution and things like that. And so that's what I find interesting. I'm just thinking, where is your competition? You know, your opponent in this political race, a progressive, going to find support in this community to muster up these votes?
Well, he's taken down, he normally keeps some, gay pride flags and some pro-choice signs in his yard. He's taken all of those down. Really? While he's in the election cycle.
That's what I was saying. They hide their political views, try and get your vote, and then come out and say, aha, see, actually, I'm for all of these things.
Yeah, so it's a little disheartening to see, but I'm just hoping that people actually show up. I was out door knocking in Ward 4, which is one of the more conservative wards that we have, and I had been at a door and they just, took my pamphlet and then, they didn't want to talk. So I just was moving on. And then she came back out the door and ran over to me and was like, she's like, I just wanted to let you know. She's like, this is Ward 4. This isn't Ward 3. So you're not campaigning in the right spot. And I'm like, oh no, all of the residents of Charlestown can vote in this race. She didn't know. There were other people that were thinking about becoming a write-in candidate that didn't know that they needed to go campaign in all 4 wards. So that's how little people know about the municipal election.
Wow. It's like that at a lot of local elections, too. People are very disconnected on the very local level.
Yep. Yeah. And these local races can be decided by tens of votes, as you were saying earlier, tens of votes. And then you get, this is the thing, conservatives, Republicans, Trump supporters. How did Trump lose the midterms in 2018? Trump supporters didn't turn out.
Right.
He won in 2016 with a massive MAGA base, but they didn't want to vote in the midterms because they wanted to vote for Trump. But then Trump got impeached twice. So that's why it matters. You get a state rep in who's some progressive, and they're going to gerrymander. They're going to vote on crazy laws, and they're going to mess your hometown up. And you're going to say, how is this happening? That's the way it happens, man, at the local level. But let's go to your chats, my friends. If you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, share the show with everyone you know. We got that uncensored call-in show coming up in about a half an hour. You don't want to miss it. That's going to be at rumble.com/Timcast IRL. Make sure you use promo code TIM10 for your annual membership. You will save $10. It's totally worth it. And also, if you want to call in, join our Discord server at timcast.com. The Culture War Live is this weekend, this Saturday. We're all going to be there. Elaad, you going to be there?
Yeah, he's
going to be there. And Alex Stein will be there. Will Chamberlain will be debating Pisco Litti on the legality of the Abrego Garcia deportations. And we've got, I think, like 17 submissions from members to join us on stage and actually get in that debate. So it's the pilot episode of Culture War Live. We have no idea if it's going to work, which is why we're really glad Alex Stein's going to be there, because he will just insult people and make jokes and will be entertained no matter what happens. But we hope that you guys get involved. It's going to be fun. All right. Dirty AFTW says, great to see Courtney on the show. Prayers for everyone in Europe currently without power. Wait, is the power still out? Still out?
Wow.
When I was live this morning, they restored it mostly. Wow. All right. Matt Ride says, angry cops made some serious allegations against the Buffalo School Board regarding covering up abuse and attempted kidnappings in their district. and not reporting to the police. What's your thoughts? Indeed. When we had Angry Cops on the show, he briefly mentioned this, and we do have the article. We will talk about that in the uncensored portion. All right, what do we got here? Clev Buckeye says, damn, that was the one where I shout out Avita Duffy, but similar and less R-rated. I don't know what that's a reference to, but thanks for the super chat. I just got a link in there for Facebook. All right. Jeffrey French PDS says, Nikki Haley will be Democrat nominee. Taking bets.
Not a chance. Not a chance.
What is she even doing right now?
I think she was the governor of South Carolina, but now she's just sitting on the sideline. I could look it up.
I mean, man, at a certain point, these people should retire, right? Like, what? Why? There's so much to do.
I think she wanted a position in Trump's cabinet, too, when she was running. She was hoping for something like that, you know.
Why? You know, I just can't empathize with these people. I can't understand why they would want that. I would not want a position in Trump's administration unless it was to arrest dirty cops, as I mentioned. But mostly, nah. Yeah, I don't want those jobs. I can't understand how they do. Anybody, like Nikki Haley or any of the Democrats.
So she's currently, I believe, she works at a conservative think tank, Walter P. Stern chair of the Hudson Institute.
I will also add that the Canadian elections are right now, and the results are coming in. So it's so far the Liberals have 17 seats, the Conservatives have 6, and so we'll see how this plays out. But there's 23 out of 343 seats called.
The spin's been that Trump sank Pierre Poilievre as a result of the 51st state rhetoric. And you know what? I don't doubt it, actually. And you know what? I don't really care. I don't really care about Canada. I kind of don't care who their leader is over there. And eventually we will force them. Quebec will force Canada to like fall apart into pieces, and then we'll pick up the pieces as we want. Not BC. That
people
could be
need to understand.
The same with Quebec.
Trump's a Canada accelerationist. He knows that if you get a Pierre Poilievre, he's a stopgap. He's not far right or anything like that. He's just kind of middle of the road, but leans left. So Trump's attitude is, no. Canada needs to suffer under far left, psychotic, sociopathic nonsense. And so, and I'm half kidding, by the way, but Trump was interviewed by Goldberg at the Atlantic, and he's basically saying that he was asked this, and he's like, yeah, I don't care. He's like, whatever. He's like, I think they'd be a great 51st state. And Goldberg's like, but they'll vote Democrat. He's like, so what? That's like, Trump doesn't care.
The only concern that I have is the guy that's likely to win.
Carney?
Yeah, he's very much in the pocket of the Chinese Communist Party. They will him being elected will mean China has significantly more influence over Canada, and China already has significant influence over.
That's Trump's play.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Carney wins. The Chinese start moving in with troops, and then Trump says, oh, no.
We need to liberate.
Yeah, we got to liberate them from the Chinese Communist
Party.
Party.
What's that Latin phrase for a reason?
Pass his belly.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. It's all part of the plan. Trust the plan. And then we'll think of something with Greenland and the Panama Canal as well. What?
Panama Canal's handled.
Yeah, we got
but
it.
we don't. No, we don't.
Yeah.
We don't have it. We came to like some agreement that would like give us better access to it.
Oh, you're saying total conquest.
Sovereignty over.
Right.
Yeah, occupation.
Sovereignty.
Seizure.
I think
to
all
become
you really
sovereign.
need, all you really need is.
And same with Greenland. Greenland needs to become a sovereign part of the United States too.
The Panama Canal, all you need is one aircraft carrier on one side and one aircraft carrier on the other, and then I think the decision's been made.
The most important part, though, is going to be able to cross, because if it blows up, then we can't transport our navy across.
I'm not saying blow it up. I'm not saying damage it at all. But
Once
two
we're on both
aircraft
sides.
carriers are extremely influential in foreign policy.
Have you guys ever watched the video of going through the Panama Canal?
Yeah, I've seen that.
It's amazing.
It's crazy.
It's so crazy. So out here, you've been to like the canal with the lock system, right?
Yes, I have.
It's so cool. It's basically how they built. Man, humans, they're crafty little MFers, man. I'll tell you what. So how do you ship goods down the water? It floats. It's super easy. And then you just go. The river flows. But how do you ship goods upstream? They would flood a side of the river. I know most people know this because it's like 5th grade science, but it's just so cool. And then they would build the locks where you're going uphill. The boat comes in. They lock the gate behind it, open the gate in front of it, and the water floods, lifting it up. It moves forward. and it lifts it up. Man, Archimedes with that law of water displacement. I'm telling you.
So one of the drawbacks to this is that it requires a ton of water to do. And at the Panama Canal, they're running out of water, and it's making them be able to accept less transport as a result of it.
Because it goes through a lake, doesn't it? Like a freshwater lake?
Yeah, and then when you're doing those lock and key, you're losing water.
Right. It
with
goes
each step. A lot of water. And it takes a lot of water to do this whole process. And the Panama Canal needs to be reformed, or there needs to be made changes there. It's not as sufficient as we need it to be. It needs to be widened, and there's...
Because I think there's... Is it a freshwater lake?
I think they wanted to do something in Nicaragua, or...
Well, I mean, it's still the most narrow part, and that's the most... I imagine that would still be the most efficient location.
That's the issue. It's a freshwater lake called the Gatun Lake, and it's a major part of the canal where the ships go through. So you can't just bring in seawater. And the Chinese wanted to build the Nicaraguan canal, which is insane because it's a massive landmass. It's not... Panama's a thin strip.
Yeah.
Nicaragua's pretty massive. And they abandoned the project. It would have destroyed a massive natural water aquifer. So people were freaking out. This is like 10 years ago. They were trying to do it.
China cannot have any major projects on this side of the hemisphere, in any part of the Western Hemisphere. We need a renewal of the Monroe Doctrine. Obviously, the Nicaraguan canal didn't go anywhere, but the fact that they were even, considering it, they also had weird influence in Panama that we need to be very aware of. The Chinese cannot have any influence in South America. We need a renewal of the Monroe Doctrine. Good.
All right. Tony Morlock says, per tradition, I'm watching from the hospital with my newborn baby Ben.
Hey,
Mazel tov.
Unfortunately, he was born with an underdeveloped aorta. A shout out would be awesome. Give, send, go, baby Morlock. Sorry to hear it, man. I hope everything works out well, though. I don't know what the treatment is. An underdeveloped aorta. That sounds serious.
Yeah.
Well, wishing the best for you, man. All right. Let's grab some more super chats. Peter Gowak says, consider the impeachment a new record for Trump. He's the greatest. No one's gotten more impeachments than him. No one's gotten more nationwide injunctions. That's something else, ain't it? Illegal but heroic. That's what I always say.
Impeachment without removal. All bark, no bite. Keep doing it. Doesn't mean anything if he doesn't get removed in the Senate. Like, Mazel tov, you didn't do anything.
Tyler Pruitt says, remember Eric July basically said the following. Until you realize you're playing a game against people who don't care about the rules, you will lose when trying to follow the rules. Man, I've been saying this forever.
Yeah.
You're playing Monopoly, and you're watching them just pull money out of the bank, and they're like, nah, I'm allowed. And you're like, okay, I wonder why I'm losing. No matter what I do, I can't seem to win. Indeed. All right. Wheel Impressive says, I'm an Uber driver in Cleveland. Just saw your billboard. LFG. Yeah, we might have like 100 billboards. I don't know how many. We have a lot. We got small ones, big ones, wide ones, tall ones, you name it.
Are they sparsely? They're kind of everywhere. Cleveland, this guy said he was. Where else you got them?
Yeah, we put them, I think they're in 10 cities.
Oh, nice.
10 metropolitan areas in the Midwest and Rust Belt. Yeah. Hefty costs. When we, but we did, it's a 6-month campaign, so they're going to be up for 6 months all over the place. When we did it, it was really funny. I did a campaign in Chicago, and I think one of the best moments was, let me see if I can find this actually. Let's see, billboard. I bet I can find this Reddit. Here we go. This one's from 3 years ago. This is why we do it, ladies and gentlemen. This is what it's for. From the David Packman Show subreddit. Tim Pool with a billboard in downtown Chicago. Regardless of my opinion, I think it's a smart move. I don't know why more new media shows aren't buying outdoor ads like this. It would be one way to fight the algorithm and build awareness, even if YouTube is not recommending the show.
Great.
Yeah, it was a digital one. And then where he claims left wing consumes mostly right-wing media. His lane seems well-funded. I don't know what that means. They were also complaining like, oh, man, we're so cooked. Blah, blah, blah. It's funny. Tim Pool, he's everywhere. That's right. We had billboards. Dude, we had a 90-foot vinyl billboard on the side of a building in Chicago. Chicago is expensive, though. It's like 100. I mean, actually, I can't even break down because it's subjective. But like one billboard in Chicago might be like $10,000 for the month, upwards of 30 or 40 grand. It's pretty crazy.
This is so flattering to you that if I didn't know better, I'd think this was planted by you guys. But I know the company well enough to know that we couldn't be planted. This is so flattering to you. This guy's like, wow.
All in Nuevo's account has been suspended.
I can't say these things about Tim on here, but like, you know, regardless of my opinion, it's a smart move. Like,
yeah, but you know, it's indicative of David Beckman. All they do is lie. That's what they do. This top comment says, never let Tim Pool forget his Trump 49 state, possibly 50 state landslide comments about the 2020 election that he had said for months leading to the election. Anyone that takes him serious, this is the world they live in.
How mad do you think this guy is that Trump's president?
Well, right, but so
3 years ago.
What I actually had said was Moody's Analytics in early 2020, I think, was projecting a possible Trump landslide victory based on the economic factors until COVID happened. So it was 2019 into 2020. Moody's was like, our forecast predicts a Trump serious victory. And then the comment they're referring to was the meme. There's a meme, 49 state landslide. Like whenever Trump was doing something well or the polls were good for him, the meme was 49 state landslide. They made a supercut of these. And also comments I had made where I'd said things like, get this. I said, if Trump appoints Andrew Yang as an economic advisor and Tulsi Gabbard as national security advisor, and then does something like issues pardons for all nonviolent pot offenders, 49 state landslide. And 49 state landslide isn't a literal term, but these people don't understand. We got you're blasting music over here.
I don't know what the hell's going on.
They don't understand memetics. They don't understand what 49 state landslide actually represents. It literally just means Trump wins handily. It's not a literal phrase, but this is what we're dealing with. So, like, let me pull this up. I got to drag David Pakman because he's such a he's WWE, man, and he does well. So, congratulations to him. I will give him that. Let me pull up this video. I got to show you this one. This is fantastic. I mean, I should just show you what his YouTube is like if you guys don't watch it. What does he have here? He does these ones like this. The clown Pac-Man. Okay. Deports 2-year-old citizen. Trump deports a 2-year-old U.S. citizen. Global humiliation. That's absolutely fake. Literally never happened.
It's so embarrassing.
We talked about this a little bit earlier. Right. The parent was an illegal migrant and chose to bring their child with them.
And they were given the option to keep the kid here in the United States under care.
Yep.
So let me see if I can find this one that he had recently. It's actually from a while ago.
You might find Maryland Man on here.
Oh, look, he's got me. He only got 28,000 views on it, though. Trump Press-X says pro-Trump Tim Pool unbiased. No, she didn't. That's just so silly, isn't it?
These guys should pay you royalties, Tim.
David Pakman is a weak man. Here you go. I've been warned, do not leave the country. In all caps, 3.4 million views. He was warned by like his brother's his brother-in-law. It's like his brother was like, man, you better not leave the country. And he goes, whoa, you're right. I should make a video about that. But hey, dude, I'm kidding. He got warned by his lawyer or something. I don't know. Or so he says. Like, I should just make videos like this. You know what I mean? Like, I wish I was as unscrupulous as David Pakman. I've known the guy for like, it's been like 13 years now. And I wish I was as smarmy and unscrupulous as he was so that I could get 3.4 million views. On that video at 7 minutes with 3.4 million views, let me do some quick ballparking. So 5, let's say you're going to get on 1 million, 25. He might have got 10 grand for that video. That's right. $10,000. That's let's call it 5 on the low end, $5,000. All to just make smarmy, garbage, fake news videos to manipulate a terrified, low IQ audience.
You should take into account, too, all the audience that he's fear-mongering to like, oh, hey, everybody, I need your help. I need all these lawyer fees that I'm going to incur because of this. You know, you really need to, I just sent up a GoSend you know, you guys really need to send me money for my lawyer fees. I'm sure that, I don't know that for sure, but that's usually what the follow-up grift is here.
End of an era. It is kind of weird. He gets massive swings. Like some videos just bomb miserably. I will say this is kind of weird. I mean, shout out to David Pakman. He's a successful guy. I get it. But it's weird that some of his videos bomb miserably and then some get massive spikes because that's not normal for YouTube. It is abnormal.
What the one with him and David Hogg get?
Where's that one?
Down a little bit.
I wonder if it's like secondary media, like sharing
28,000.
Why they're getting, some of them get much higher than others.
I do think people need to consider that you don't know why or where views come from. So when you look at analytics for channels, one thing to consider is that shorts get substantially more views. So if you pull up anyone, conservative, liberal, otherwise, you're going to see huge spikes in their views, but check their shorts. It's probably when they launched shorts on their channel, which added views to their channel. What I will say is for David or me or anybody else, sometimes what happens is a network might grab your video and embed it. And so like, whatever Drudge has going on, I don't know how big they are these days, but if they put your video on the front page and they have 1 million people watching, your video will get a massive amount of traffic. So that could be a reason why you see weird swings like that.
I found a lot of social media platforms, algorithms have been very fickle in the past couple of years. One thing that'll go viral 1 month, a couple of months later, it'll be something totally different. A lot of tweaking. I've noticed on YouTube, on X, on Instagram. Everything also seems to be the crapization. Like everything's becoming TikTok-like. Everything's becoming scroll up for another video.
Even X.
Every platform has it, and they have their own variety of it. We're seeing everything fuse into one, the same app.
You know what is interesting too? Just like from being on David's channel right now, it's all Trump. Like most of it is Trump, right? You've got Elon, you got Trump, you've got Karen Levitt, you got Trump, you got Trump, you got Trump, you got Trump, you got Trump. It's just 80, 90% Trump, but it is for us too. Literally the only thing anybody cares about in the world right now is Donald Trump.
Yeah. I mean, that's the way that it was during his first term, too.
It's crazy because there's so much going on. I think India and Pakistan might be going at it, but I don't know.
Like,
Trump said something, though.
They're inches away from a nuclear war, right? But it still is.
But a Democrat just said he wants to impeach Trump, so, Americans care more about that.
The first time we invited David Pakman on the show, he said he would do it for $5,000. And so we just kindly declined. And then about a year, I think it was a year ago now, we asked him to come on the show. He said yes, but he was busy with family stuff. And then he never came on. Kyle Kalinske said the same thing. He would come on, but he was busy with his schedule and he tried and find time, but he never did. So we'd love to have Kyle Kalinske on the show. But I don't know what happened to that guy. His brain turned to jello.
Him and Crystal, they fused their brains, but the fusion didn't happen properly, and now they're just both retarded.
Well, I think what happens is if you take like 3 people who don't know each other, and let's say they're all slightly anti-Trump or something, you lock them in a room and have them just talk to each other, and they will wind each other up rapidly over a period of time and then leave the most ardent anti-Democrat, pro-Trump, crazy. So what I think happened to Kyle and Crystal Ball is they were both kind of like rational. They got together and started going back and forth, and then they keep one-upping until in their internal echo chamber, they went insane. And now Kyle routinely just insults Joe Rogan. It's so weird. He was a frequent guest on the show, and he just started just attacking Joe one day, and it's like, bro, just text him. Like, what? I don't get it. Yep. Like, I'm pretty sure Joe mentioned on his show that he texts with Kyle, and then one day Kyle just started insulting the guy.
And he, like, Joe was instrumental in both Crystal Ball and Kyle Kalinske's career, right? Like, this is back when Joe was not hated by the left. He really helped Kyle out. He did the same thing with Sager and Crystal Ball's show. And now they just, relentlessly trash him. It's disgusting.
I got to read this one. From Shedrick Staley. He says, Tim, Bed Davidson covered the cause of the blackouts in Europe as well as Puerto Rico. Might want to give it a listen. You had him on your show once. We had him on our show twice. And he's the space weather guy. And he was predicting, this is why when the story happened of the power outage in Europe, I was like, oh man. Because this dude's predicting that he's like, what is he, an astronomer? Space weather guy? He tracks solar flares and people kind of think he's a little out there, but you talk to him and he's actually like, no, here's the math. And it's very like mundane science stuff. But he's basically saying we are at some point due for a polar shift. The poles of the planet will shift. Something's going to happen. It does happen. Look it up. This is not, and he thinks it's going to happen soon. It's not like conspiracy stuff. This actually does happen periodically. And the interesting thing is when they found the woolly mammoth frozen in the ice, it had undigested plant matter in its stomach, indicating it froze very quickly. And so I think it was him saying this, that it's possible that the woolly mammoth was in a temperate climate. The poles shifted, and then this basically puts the equator where it was kind of warm into a colder region, and then super cold, super quick. Crazy.
What was that movie that happened in There was a
day
disaster
after tomorrow.
I think so, and it just like where like there was like waves that were freezing.
If that happens, I just hope that West Virginia is one of the warm places. I want to be the new equator.
We would stay the same. So we talked about it. So basically what would happen is if the poles flipped, I think the North and South Pole would become the equator. And then where we are would shift into the southern hemisphere. But because we're kind of between the North Pole and the equator, we would still be in like a moderate zone temperate climate. So it would just invert the seasons.
So instead of Florida being the popular place to go for the summer, you'd need to go to Maine.
Yep. I think. I don't know. I have to ask him.
It's going to be Greenland.
That's why Trump wants it.
What Trump wants.
No, but yeah, I think that's actually what he was saying, that the North and South Pole is going to tilt. And so they're going to be at the equator where it's warmer, and then the ice will melt, start freezing. It's going to be weird if it really did happen. I don't know. It sounds crazy because, we tend not to believe in those things, like those big changes. But who knows? These power outages are freaky. They're saying it was a rare atmospheric phenomenon which fried the power grid. And it was like the frequency of solar radiation or something. I don't know.
See, that's why stuff like that can happen. I don't know. People should have a little bit of stuff on hand that they can expect that might happen.
Yeah, and if I understand correctly, Europe's power infrastructure is uniquely delicate. Well, maybe not uniquely, but it's extremely delicate, and it was very close to wiping out essentially all of Europe today. So,
all right,
don't know that there's anything that we can. There's certainly not anything that we can do. But
the Raptors talent says, "Phil, you sweet summer child, it's so much worse than you think. I will give you an anecdote of what the average American person is. On October 30th, 2024 at 8:35 p.m., she asked me, and I quote, 'Are you going to kill me for not voting for Donald Trump because that is what he wants?'" There you go. What the average person thinks, I have no idea. But I assume it's stuff like that.
Ridiculous.
Trucking Pat says, "This is how democracy dies, to the sounds of thunderous applause. Unless we can vote him out or kick him out." Indeed. Pike County Zombie Control says, "Do you think Pritzker will show up to testify about sanctuary states?" No. Well, maybe. He wants to get as much television as he can, so he might. Briflick says, "There's enough evidence for fraud on Act Blue for the processor to terminate their account. My business was dropped for less and legal. I'd be first in line for a class action discrimination to banks." Let's go. Kamikaze says, "Katie Hobbs' admin is under investigation. An Arizona Department of Agriculture state employee was just arrested for trying to smuggle Mexican nationals across the AZ border near Nogales, charging them $7,000 to $12,000. Wow. That's crazy. Man. All right. Let's see. We've gotten more requests about the AK Storm. If you have time, please cover the Buffalo schools, covering up the sexual assault the Angry Cops is exposing. They had a community meeting that was the only one they didn't live stream. Odd.
Yeah, and they did that today.
Interesting.
It's pretty rough.
Patriot Punk Network says, "All politics is local. I cover and preach local politics. It's not glamorous, but it is effective, just as swampy." Indeed it is. Indeed. Renegade Guardian says, "Make a deal with Newfoundland. They have all the rare minerals. They are also the Texas of Canada for guns." Is that true?
Newfoundland. It's next to Quebec, northeast of it. No, we want Greenland. Maybe we can get Newfoundland too, but we got our eyes on Greenland, everybody.
But Newfoundland's just Canada.
Yeah, the 51st state. Yeah, the whole thing. I don't want Quebec.
No, it's fine. The land is great. The people, we can just, put them in camps.
We have to have English has to be the national language by then.
I never got, I said this before, but man, when you go, when I make jokes about like invading Canada, they lose their minds. And I think it might be because they genuinely fear we'll do it.
The most cuck thing about Canada is how much they all do whatever Quebec wants constantly because they'll threaten to leave. So I think it's
I say Trump just suspend all trade with Canada, all of it, 100%.
All of Canadian politicians,
down.
national Canadian politicians have to learn French only because of Quebec, or they can't win national politics. I think it's hilarious. They're totally cucked by Quebec.
It's the law. It's the law.
I think one of the craziest things I've learned about Canada in the last year is that the places where they have so many polar bears, people aren't allowed to have guns.
Oh, right.
And like polar bears, they'll mess you up. And the Canadians aren't allowed to have guns. That blows my mind.
But I'm pretty sure if you're in like the Yukon Territory or something, ain't nobody's going to stop you from having a gun because there's nobody up there. So, but there was that viral video where the guy in the snowmobile like shot a polar bear. They say if it's brown, get down. If it's black, fight back. If it's white, good night.
Yeah. You're doomed.
Yeah, polar bear will just kill you. Nothing you can do about it. Polar bear's hungry. He'll eat whatever he can get. Miss Fitbrat says, as a stenographer, I can tell you that courts make a specific record for illegal defendants and refer to a list of immigration-neutral consequences that they often offer as pleas to avoid ICE if the original charge is deportable. Wow. Send them back. If they jaywalk, be like, you have a $35 ticket for jaywalking. What say you? You're not guilty? Deported.
Get out of here.
Goodbye. All right, we'll grab, what do we got time for? One more? All right, what do we got? Let's see. Ooh. Value in use says, hey, Illinois clown, how about focusing on lowering taxes, less regulation, fighting inflation, lowering crime, strengthening the border, and national security instead of protests and megaphones? Sorry to make sense. It's why I don't live in Illinois anymore, my friends. All right, we're going to go to that uncensored show, which we're going to talk about some serious stuff. So smash that like button. Share the show with everyone you know. Head over to rumble.com/Timcast IRL, where that uncensored show will be. You got to sign up as a Rumble Premium member. Using promo code TIM10, you'll get $10 off your annual membership. You can follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast. Courtney, do you want to shout anything out?
Yeah, I'm on X over at Courtney Nill. That's COURTNEYKNILL. I would also highly encourage you to go check out my campaign website that I made. I'm the only candidate in my race that even made a website. That is nillforcitycouncil.com. And if anyone would consider, if I could grab a couple of donations, that would be great. Even if it's, $20 or something. I really want to be able to use the leverage that I have to win. My campaign opponent, he has a lot more personal funding than I do. So I'm just the little guy here that needs some help. So.
Right on.
Absolutely. Courtney, I commend you for putting yourself out there in this race, and I'm wishing you good luck in your race. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. My name is Elaad Eliyahu. I'm the White House correspondent here at Timcast. You could find me at Elaad Eliyahu on social media platforms. And tomorrow morning, I just got the daily schedule from the White House. There's an 8:30 a.m. press briefing. So if you guys are up that early, check me out at the press briefing room with Caroline Levitt. Hopefully she calls on me.
Timcast White House correspondent Elaad Eliyahu.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have believed it if you told me a couple of months ago.
They did a special briefing today, didn't they?
Also at 8:30 in the morning. I think they moved earlier for one reason or another.
They did a new media-only briefing.
Oh, yeah. Completely separate from the daily, not the daily briefing, but the usual press briefing. And it was in a different room.
Why?
And I believe there was
the
only
EOB.
like a dozen people there who were all handpicked to be there, as I understand.
Yeah.
Why? I don't know. It was strange. I wasn't invited, so...
Just so long as it bothers the legacy media, I'm happy with it. I am Phil That Remains on Twix. I'm Phil That Remains Official on Instagram. The band is All That Remains. Our new record is called Anti-Fragile. It's available on YouTube, Apple Music, Pandora, Spotify, Deezer, the internet. And don't forget the Left Lane is for crime.
We will see you all over at rumble.com/Timcast IRL in about 30 seconds. Thanks for hanging out.